I'm annoyed. This is the 4th time I've tried to record this video. The first was in the mountains a few weeks ago with Tom when it was a little bit windy. But this has a few things that a kit lens doesn't. The second, I was in the mountains again, but on my own with my bike. That was a bit rainy. The third was a couple of days ago when I was in a hotel room in France. I'd sort of given up with the idea of doing this outside. I just needed to get it done. That didn't go very well either. And so it's with a heavy heart, a terrible weather forecast, and the fact that I'm going away in 3 days again, that I've decided that I just need to do this video in my office. Which I hate doing because I'm an outdoors photographer, and every time I film a video in here, I feel like I've failed a bit. But anyway, this video is sponsored by Lumix, and it's about lenses, or your first one and two lenses. So with this being a photography channel, typically I'm asked quite a lot about photography related questions, no more so than James, what lens should I buy first or second? So very quickly, if you've just got into photography and you're thinking of buying an interchangeable lens camera, I would suggest the vast majority of the time that you need to get yourself a kit lens. Now these kit lenses, this one is a 12-60 that I bought with my G80 3 years ago maybe. They're not the widest, they're not the longest, they're rarely the sharpest, and they're certainly not the fastest, but they're great all-rounders for typically a great price when you buy it with the camera. So if you look at the discounts of these lenses when you buy them at the same time you buy a camera, typically the discount is pretty good. And they're really good versatile lenses for learning photography or trying to figure out what kind of photography you'd like to be doing going forward. And I still use this lens. So I was using it the other day in Strasbourg in France. I was just walking around the city with a camera and one lens, and I decided to take this because it's the most versatile lens that I have for that kind of shooting. It's got a zoom range of 12-60, which is full frame equivalent 24-120, so perfectly usable in lots of different situations. So yeah, this is a really handy lens, nice and light, even if it's not the fastest. I don't think I took any photos that day, to be honest, which is not great as an example. I did get a video clip of an otter. Very nice. Is that an otter? I thought it was an otter, but it had a big tail, and I didn't think otters had tails. Anyway, yeah, so kit lenses are a great thing to invest in, particularly if you don't know what kind of photography you're going to want to do from the start, which is the case when most people get into photography. However, after that, if you've been shooting for, I don't know, 6 months, a year, 2 years with your kit lens, and you want to progress to something else, but you don't know what else that should be, well, my answer then is the most unsatisfactory answer in the world, which is, it depends. So if your time with your kit lens has made you think that you want to spend more time shooting wildlife, for example, then I would probably suggest that you may want to look at telephoto lenses. If, however, your time with your kit lens has made you think that you want to spend more time doing astrophotography and shooting the stars, well, in that case, I'd maybe push you towards a wide angle lens. But if, as in most cases I've found in my experience, you're still in your first sort of year or so of photography and you don't know exactly what you want to photograph more, you just know that you really like photography and you want to improve your photography, if that's the case, then the vast majority of the time I would suggest your second lens should be one of these. So this is a 25mm f1.4 prime, or what lots of people call a nifty 50. It's 25mm. Why on earth would you call it a nifty 50? In full frame equivalent, this focal length would be 50mm. So in micro four thirds, which I use, all the focal lengths are halved. Not technically, but that's the easiest way to explain it. So why would I suggest that you invest in a nifty 50/25? Well, a plethora of reasons, to be honest. So first reason I would suggest that you get a nifty 50/25 is value. Now this particular lens is a collaboration lens with Leica, so this isn't a particularly cheap nifty 50, but like most systems across most manufacturers, there is often a choice of which nifty 50 you can go for. So for example, in the micro four thirds Lumix range, there is another 25, which isn't quite as bright, but is significantly cheaper. And across most systems, you can pick up a nifty 50 for, well, pretty much cheaper than any other lens type that you can buy. Now, obviously, I'm not going to suggest that you buy another lens just because it's cheap. I mean, that's not a particularly compelling reason to add something else to your bag. The main reasons I would suggest buying one of these are because of what it can do for your photography. So, as versatile as these kit lenses can be, they're never going to be the brightest, fastest lenses in the world. And typically, they're variable aperture lenses. So as you zoom in, you get a narrower aperture, which means potentially at the longer focal lengths, they become slightly less usable in, for example, low light. Whereas nifty 50s are brilliant in low light because typically they come at sort of 1.2, 1.4, 1.8, those kind of apertures, which means they're really, really bright and can be fantastic in low light. And you get to start experimenting with shallow depth of field, real razor thin shallow depth of field, which can add to your creative endeavors in your photos. But the biggest advantage I see with buying one of these, a nifty 50, is its disadvantages. So it's a prime, it doesn't zoom, you're stuck with one focal length, which is 50mm full frame equivalent. And to a new photographer, that probably sounds quite frustrating, and it is, and that's the point of why this is so good. So when you shoot with primes, you are constrained, obviously, to that particular focal length, which means that any photo that you work on typically, you're going to have to do more legwork. Very literally, you're going to have to walk around to zoom in and out of your frame to get more stuff or less stuff in your shot. And the process of doing that is amazing for improving your photography, because the whole time you're doing it, the whole time you're looking through your viewfinder trying to get exactly the right shot, is time that you're giving really valuable consideration to your compositions, which will benefit that photo there and then, but also all your other photos in future. And I'd say it's a little bit like learning to drive an automatic versus a manual car. It's not really like that at all, actually. Forget that, that's rubbish. But yeah, learning to shoot with primes and learning how to creatively get some stuff out of your composition or include more stuff into your composition can be hugely beneficial to all your photos going forward. And therefore, as a training tool, I think this is one of the most important pieces of kit a photographer can buy. And I'm sure some of you are thinking, why on earth would I buy a lens that has a focal length that I already have in my kit lens? And I get that, but the benefits that I've just outlined are way more important than the fact that you're doubling up on a particular focal length. Definitely. And also, you can still use this for other focal lengths. So for example, if I shoot with my G9 and use the high resolution mode, which spits out 80 megapixel files, then I can just crop loads and end up with a perceived focal length way bigger than 25. And similarly, I did a video about a year ago now about how I can get really wide angle images with this lens and multiple shots, which I'll put here. So yeah, in short, the benefits of a standard focal length prime are its restrictions, which can be overcome by the techniques that I've just mentioned. Hopefully that makes sense. So yeah, thanks for watching, and that's my answer on this topic. If you're looking for a first lens, in most cases I would suggest you look really carefully at the kit lenses. If you're looking for a second lens and you still want to shoot a variety of stuff, then I'd very much suggest a nifty 50, definitely. Also, I have a quick favour. I was thinking the other day, I watch loads of YouTube channels that I don't subscribe to, and I don't realise I'm not subscribed to them until like 6 months down the road when I've watched 50 of their videos, and I'm like, oh, I should probably subscribe. And I think it's in part because I don't know if subscriptions are of any benefit now. I feel like you have to click the bell thing to always hear of videos. But I'd ask, if you're the sort of person like me who watches lots of YouTube videos of me, I mean, I don't do that, but you know what I mean, and you haven't subscribed, I'd ask you to consider subscribing. I don't know if it'll benefit you in any way, to be honest. I don't know if my videos will come up more often than they do when you're not subscribed to me, but it'll help me feel like I'm enough. So yeah, apologies that this video has been filmed in a boring room and not out in some mountain somewhere, but I shall endeavour to improve that in the future. Thanks for watching.